Dr. Chandrasekhar, Dr. Sandhya Chintala, Mrs. Malati, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. I will only be with you for about 20 minutes now because I have to leave actually at 11, but I'll try and give a talk which I had prepared for a substantially longer time in seemingly less time. So we talked about the demographic dividend. I won't spend time on this. But what is interesting is we look at the population going forward, about 1.2 billion people, there would be close to 700 million people in the working age population, 200 million would be graduates, many of them engineering graduates, and 500 would have no qualification. So initially when NSDC was started off, it was felt that we need to focus on this 500 million to give them some kind of a certification going forward. And when we looked at the education system, we were reminded of Mr. Rabindranath Tagore's interesting article in 1917, where basically it says that we push children into predetermined curriculum and get them to lose their inquisitiveness, their innovation, etc. I think this quote is as much applicable today as it was in 1917. So really, children go to college, attend classes, tutorials, assignments, examinations, but some paper reading, but sports, extracurricular or learning and doing or working with hand is given the go by. We also have a very complicated system and a huge dropout along the way because children don't like what they're doing. And at one hand, we have all these people dropping out of the system. On the other, we are looking at industry wanting to employ close to around 34 crore kids going forward. So given this context, there was in 2009, we kind of looked at the national skills policy. Basically 4 big parameters. We wanted inclusion, something which Dr. Chandrasekhar talked about. We wanted a dynamic and demand-driven system and a planning system, and I'll talk about how it relates to engineering colleges in a minute. No distinction between private and public and huge competition in the system, and to have policy coordination and cooperation going forward. So what actually happened is that we needed to create an institutional framework. We looked at coordination with the central ministries, looked at the state skill missions, and how do you address the linkages between mainstream and vocational education, between private sector and government, enterprise, and the employers and the academic system, is which I'm really going to talk about today. And also, how do you create a whole technical infrastructure that promotes information about what is available. Because engineering institutions are in an advantage, because the belief is that if you have a boy, it should be an engineer. If you have a girl, she should be a doctor. So at a huge advantage at this point of time. But that does not explain why in the last 2 years there's been roughly a 20% or 25% decline in engineering entrances, and the capacity utilization of engineering colleges is hovering around 50%. So the first thing what we did was we said, okay, what does the economy want? Right? When you talk to students, and when you talk, there's a huge dichotomy between when you talk to students and when you talk to the education institutions. When you talk to the professors and heads of education institutions, we ask them, how do you feel your institution is doing? Are you serving? Yes, we are serving the needs of society, and we are producing children who are fit to work, and we're giving them a good education. When you ask children, what do you want to do? Why have you joined this institution? There is a question mark, right? So we asked the students, those students who have joined this institution with neither of the following 2 objectives, please raise your hand. So we say either to pursue a course in higher education or to get a job. And interestingly, no hands go up. So the students believe they're not come here to, be good citizens, be whatever it is. They've come here to either qualify to sit for a higher education, entrance exam, or get into a higher education course, and I would call an IS examination and allied also something similar to that, or get a job. So when they are looking at that, we said, what is the actual skill gap in the country, and what do we need to be preparing our students for? So just to give you an example, we did Andhra Pradesh, and we actually did Andhra Pradesh before it was divided. So we have culled out the Andhra bit from here, and so we just said, even if you take Andhra, what is the increment demand of manpower, and what's the in the next 5 years and the 5 years beyond that, and close to 2 million or 1.7 million people are required. We broke it down to district wise. Then we matched the aspiration of youth. We said, okay, let us plot the high jobs, right? And some of the high jobs like transportation and logistics, nobody wanted to go. And he said, do you know that automobile engineering or mechanical engineering actually is a pathway into the transportation and logistics sector? No one kind of realized it. But IT, ITES, you mentioned all these three sectors in your speech. But construction also, there was very interesting because people thought that they can become entrepreneurs and contractors in this space, and a lot of money was to be made. So while we were doing this, we said, we need to create a whole ecosystem of people who can help skill the 700 million people in the country. When we looked at the existing capability in 2008 and 9, the total skilling capacity in India was 3.1 million. If you want to train 500 million people, you would have to take it in 2008 and 9 to 50 million a year. That means a huge increase. Today, you have to take it to 60 to 70 million to be able to address the population. So one thing that we are trying to do is trying to create an ecosystem also to enable this to happen.